Bitter criticism. Today we are reading. I'm going to read some Al Jazeera news. It's been a long time. So Al Jazeera economy. Well, let's guess what's going on in the main page. I knew it. Israel. Israel. But I don't care much. You know why? Because there's nobody can do, nothing nobody can do. Well, I guess I support Palestine, but I cannot give money. So what is this support if I can give money to Palestine and Hamas? And I guess I know these people from Brazil, the PCO. I guess they actually give money to Palestine. Definitely, I guess they do that. So if you want to support Palestine, give money to them in order to buy weapons and destroy Israel. That would be better than, I don't know, wearing a shirt, a jersey. I guess I will do that if I win the lottery. I will send a lot of bullets, against Israel. Anyway, but yeah, maybe I could read some news, but it's so sad, there's no news. Everybody knows what happened. It's just genocide. That's what I don't read. I don't even read, who can solve the situation is China. But I don't even speak Chinese. Nobody watch my show. Who knows? Mexican drug lord El Mayo Zambada and son of El Chapo arrested in Texas. This is interesting. Look, about Venezuela. Despite Al Jazeera is not a South American country, they are always covering everything. Economy, Al Jazeera. Well, this is economy. As Maduro faces Gonzalez in Venezuela, sanctions remain a key hurdle. In his tenure, Maduro has seen an economic meltdown as GDP contracted 70% and 77.7 million Venezuelans fled in search of work. Contracted. When was that? Contracted 70%. Yeah, they came to Chile also. And sometimes I fall in love of some Venezuelan people, Venezuelan girls, women, but right now I don't. Right now they disappear. They go back Venezuela, I guess. We have a photograph here. Supporters of Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro, who is seeking re-election for a third term, gathered for the closing of his political campaign in Caracas, Venezuela. I knew Leonardo Tuch from TV 24/7 in Brazil channel. He said Gabriel Boric was condemning Nicolás Maduro. Maybe he's condemning Nicolás Maduro for free, without arguments, just because he's seeking for a third re-election. Anyway, this news is by Alexander Kozul Wright, July 26. Quote, life has been hard for years now. It's true that food prices have come down recently, but they are still so high, says Rodrigo, a private security guard working in Caracas, Venezuela's capital. He did not want to give his last name. Amid a decades-long economic crisis, Rodrigo thinks that people are ready for a change. On Sunday, he will join 21 million people who are eligible to vote in picking the country's next president. The general election falls on the birthday of Hugo Chavez. While Chavez had a troubling record on human rights, the charismatic left-wing leader who governed Venezuela from 1999 until his death in 2013 was celebrated as a champion of the poor. His less popular successor, Nicolas Maduro, is now up against opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia, a retired diplomat, and polls show Gonzalez leading by wide margin. What? Yeah. But Maduro has a knack for clinging to power. Most opposition parties boycotted his re-election in 2018, arguing the poll was neither free nor fair. In January, Maduro banned his main rival, Maria Corina Machado, from running, while accusations of government interference have marred elections in Venezuela for decades. Maduro has said that he will recognize the results of Sunday's ballot. Quote, "I'm not sure that will happen next Monday. There's talk of things getting violent. But even if Gonzalez wins," Rodrigo acknowledged, "I'm not sure he can transform the country like Chavez did. During his tenure, Chavez successfully used high oil prices, the lifeblood of Venezuela's economy, to double Venezuela's GDP per capita. Welfare programs were expanded, and poverty and unemployment fell." I have a graphic here, Venezuela's GDP and Brent crude prices. So yeah, I guess my opinion, of course, is because of the economic block from the empire. That's the problem with Venezuela. And the oil prices, maybe. Dollars, yeah. So definitely the oil, look. Oil prices skyrocketed from 2003 to 2030. This 10 years of good prices. Maduro has not been so lucky. Now, in his 11th year in office, he has overseen an economic meltdown. Since 2014, output has contracted by 70%, more than twice the hit the United States suffered during the Great Depression. More than twice. Yeah. So, yeah, the problem is they have a Netherlands disease, Holland disease. They don't have the diversified economy. Over that period, some 7.7 million Venezuelans, a quarter of the population, have left the country in search of work. In 2022, the IMF described Venezuela's state of disorder as the single largest economic collapse for a non-conflict country in half a century. Government critics see the country's downward spiral as a result of corruption. For his part, Maduro blames Venezuela's plague on the crippling US-led sanctions imposed with increasing degrees of severity since 2005. He is not alone. Several commentators have decried the measures as illegal and harsh. Caracas is barred from taping international capital markets, restricting imports and debt financing, used to clear fiscal deficits, and fund infrastructure projects. In 2019, Donald Trump also stopped Venezuela from exporting crude oil to the US and from importing diluents needed to process its own heavy crude. Commodity course, Venezuela boasts the largest proven oil reserves on earth. In the late 1990s, it was pumping 3.6 million barrels a day. generating 95% of its export revenues. But US sanctions and years of mismanagement have left production below 1 million BPD. And we have a photograph: Venezuelan opposition presidential candidate Edmundo Gonzalez and Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado participate in a presidential election campaign closing rally in Caracas, Venezuela. Anyway, quote, to be clear, sanctions have constrained Venezuela's oil and gas sector, but that sits alongside administrative negligence, said Tim Hunter, a Latin America analyst at Oxford Economics. Hunter was alluding to decades of underinvestment. PDVSA, the state-owned energy company and the backbone of Venezuela's economy. Then in 2017, Maduro then announced a contentious executive shake-up by appointing loyal military officials to top jobs at PDVSA. You know, I will give you my take on this subject. Is a paradox, you know. If somebody like this guy who comment here, to be clear, sanctions have constrained Venezuela's oil and gas sector. Yeah, this is the point of Hunter. His name is Tim Hunter. To be clear, sanctions have constrained Venezuela's oil and gas sector. Remember that. Tim Hunter is saying that. And then Tim Hunter said, but that sits alongside administrative negligence. Well, in the first place, if you have sanctions that constrains oil and gas sector, how you will manage the situation, you know? It's impossible, you know? If you have I forgot now. He's talking about constraint, but it's also I forgot the word now. When a country ingerence, I'm not sure if there's this word in English, but ingerence, when a country rules other country, you know, what, interfere in other country business, you know. When you have one country who is bullied, you know, Venezuela is getting bullied. Who will do anything about that, you know? Maduro, Chavez himself? No. Maybe Chavez was dead, you know. Maybe Chavez was killed. Who knows? So, in my opinion, nobody can do anything, you know, to help Venezuela if he's blocked, you know. If he's blocked, that's the question. Venezuela is destroyed by the imperialism, and as Leonardo Tuch explained it in TV 24/7 channel, Venezuela is a destroyed country because it has no market. It's a small market, you know, so it's not important. Venezuelan people, it's not important. They will not buy, I don't know, Venezuelan jerseys, Venezuelan Adidas jerseys. It doesn't matter, you know. Adidas will not make a lot of money. Nobody will make any money because it's not a big market, you know. There's not so much Venezuelan people. Anyway, so the imperialism destroyed. So I will read again this contradictory, paradoxical, stupid sentence. To be clear, sanctions have constrained Venezuela's oil and gas sector, but that sits alongside administrative negligence. So how not to be negligent with all this ingerence? Tim Hunter, not a Venezuelan boy. Anyway, even accounting for low output in recent years, fossil fuels continue to make up almost half of Venezuela's official exports. So when sales fall from meager production or low prices, the economy suffers, said Hunter. Soft hydrocarbon sales were behind Venezuela's recent bout of hyperinflation. Oil price declines, which persisted from 2014 to 2017, triggered foreign currency shortages and lowered the value of the peso, the Venezuelan peso. They also lowered tax revenues from oil proceeds, a key resource of government revenue. Eventually, as the central bank started to print more money to cover budget shortfalls, and as imports became increasingly expensive, inflation exceeded 1,000,000% in 2018. Quote, because Venezuela relies on imports for basic goods, it brushed with hyperinflation led to import compression. For years, supermarkets and pharmacies were understocked. This would encourage so many Venezuelans to leave, creating growth even further, says Hunter. Whoever wins on Sunday, the next government will have to try to move away from its reliance on oil towards other areas of productive activity. That said, in the near term, they should try to correct oil sector inefficiencies and use the proceeds to pay off outstanding debts. Mountain of obligations. This is a huge article. Venezuela defaulted on its commercial debt in 2017, together with bonds issued by PDVSA and the state utility ELECAR. The government owes approximately $22 billion, I guess. BN. I don't know what's that. BN. Then there is an additional 57.2 BN owned by China, and in various arbitration awards, the Financial Times reported. In all, Venezuela's debt, this is debt to GDP, I guess, I'm not sure. In all, Venezuela's debt to GDP is estimated at 148%. Quote, given the mountain of obligations, it will need to be cleared before the next government can kickstart growth, Luis Salas, former vice president of the economy, told Al Jazeera. Quote, in theory, that will mean a sovereign debt restructuring in which the government can negotiate with lenders to reduce the amount owed. He added, that should give them fiscal breathing room to focus on other areas like infrastructure spending. In April, it was reported that financial services firm Rothschild & Co had been hired to help Caracas map out its tangled liabilities, Salas said. The appointment of advisors in a sign that Maduro is intent on engaging with creditors and reinserting Venezuela back into global financial markets. However, he pointed out that austerity programs tend to follow debt restructuring in entering a new deal. Lenders want to maximize their chances of repayment. Governments, in turn, typically cut public spending to generate sufficient revenues to meet their new obligations. Quote, what many are hoping for, says Salas, is that we can use the oil instead of expenditure on education and healthcare for a deal. Of course, in practice, this can happen with sanctions. Until they are lifted, we won't restructure the debt and will continue to struggle. A very huge article is not ending. Sanctions extremely negative impact. The administration of President Joe Biden inherited a strategy of maximum pressure on Venezuela from President Trump. But despite applied pressure, consecutive rounds of sanctions failed to dislodge Maduro. Biden, meanwhile, pursued a different approach. Under the 2023 Barbados Agreement, he eased some sanctions, notably on oil and debt, for political guarantees, namely free and fair elections and the release of detained U.S. citizens. The deal allowed Venezuela to earn an additional $740 million in oil sales from last October to March. But after Maduro blocked Machado from running and following the revival of a territorial dispute with Guyana, Biden reimposed U.S. sanctions in April. Quote, clearly American restrictions have an extremely negative impact, said Mark Wisbrod, co-director of the Center for Economic and Policy Research, CEPR. Quote, indeed, crippling sanctions have hurt Venezuela's economy far more than any domestic policy mistakes. Admittedly, Wisbrod believed that gains could be made under a hostile foreign environment. He pointed out that there have been some gains in terms of inflation and growth in recent years. Never-ending article. Consumer price gains are estimated to have fallen to 51% in June, while GDP growth is thought to have exceeded 5% in 2023. Quote, but, he warned, a wholesale recovery cannot take place under sanctions. If Gonzalez wins, they can probably be lifted quickly. If Maduro wins, even cleanly. I wouldn't expect a change in the U.S. position, regardless of who becomes president this November. Well, this was by Al Jazeera. And yeah, I'm completely disagree with Al Jazeera. Sometimes I read it, but I guess they are absolutely neoliberal. I guess Al Jazeera is globalist, you know.